Hi and welcome to this 8.2 Affliction guide. Let's kick it right off with the talents. First off, this is the single target setup for talents. The only difference in talents that you want to do between AoE and cleave and single target is between Absolute Corruption and Siphon Life. Everything else is the best, and it's just the best because of the numbers and how you use it. And the reason why you would like to have Absolute Corruption in certain fights is because it saves you globals, and it allows you to dot up a lot of ads without caring about ever dotting corruption again. For example, is that cool? And Queen's Court. So Siphon Life for single target, Absolute Corruption for cleave and AoE. When it comes to the pets, you always want to use Imp for most of the fights. Sometimes you would like to use a Fell Hunter if you really need its ability, and sometimes you would like to use a Voidwalker for cleave and AoE. But other than that, my choice is always Imp because he can switch target fast and simple, and they all perform the same when it comes to the DPS wise. Warlock's utility to the raid is primarily Healthstones, Soulstone, the Gateway of course, and you have the Shadow Fury as well. There are not a lot of fights we have to use Shadow Fury, but it has its uses. And the most important thing, of course, is the Summoning Stone to get your slacking friends to the raid faster. When it comes to the trinkets, there are two trinkets in the raid that's really good. The one is Leviathan's Lure, the other one is the Shard Trinket. Of course, there are dungeon trinkets that they can Titan Forge a lot. And for example of these that you might want to use is the Tulbarad Trinket, Tulbador Trinket, which gives you a lot of haste. But in my opinion, Leviathan's Lure is a need to get. It's an incredibly strong trinket, and the Shard Trinket is it's so good. Personally, I'm running Leviathan's Lure and Shiver Venom Relic. You would like to use Shiver Venom Relic on cooldown if it has 5 stacks, unless there's an enemies or ads coming into the fight where you can cleave them with the trinket. But generally use it on cooldown. When it comes to the Azerite, Condensed Life Force, it's insane. You should always use it. It pairs up incredibly well with the Dark Lair and Dark Soul Mystery. It's highly recommended to use it. When it comes to the minor slots, I haven't unlocked my second minor slot yet, so I'm using Essence of the Focus and Iris. It is possible to use Whirlwind Resonance, but it requires a lot of your raid mates to also use it before it's good, and preferably on rank 3 as well. But the Essence of the Focus and Iris is self-explanatory. It doesn't really, you don't have to think around it. You just play it and it gives you haste, gives you stats. Whirlwind Resonance, you kind of have to play around it. If you see, it's a very small range from when it spawns, so you have to be close to it, and if not a lot of players play with it, it's almost impossible to have good uptime on it. When it comes to the Azerite choices, there are 4 Azerites you want to keep your eye out for. It's ID, the Drain Life one. Loyal to the End gives you a lot of stats, but the thing about Loyal to the End is that you have to have other players playing with it, preferably 5. Otherwise it's not as good. But in my raid group we have at least 5, 6, 7 players playing with Loyal to the End. And if they die, well, you get a lot of stats. The other ones are Cascading Calamity and Raking Brilliance. Cascading Calamity changes your rotation slightly, but we're going to get into that later. And Raking Brilliance is incredibly strong. It gives you an intellect proc every other soul shard you get. Personally, I'm playing with ID, Loyal to the End, Cascading Calamity, and another ID. And I'm playing Raking Brilliance, a Sudden Onset. The reason I have a Sudden Onset is quite simple. I don't have a better gear piece than this. I would like to have another talent if possible, but I'm stuck with Sudden Onset. The 2 changes that the Azerite changes or to your rotation is ID obviously forces you to play with Drain Life. When you're higher than 45 stacks with Drain Life, you can use it. It's really strong. You can save it up for a priority ad if something needs to die, for example in Mythic Plus. Or just use it for the boss. You want to use it on 45 plus as I said. Personally I use it at 50, but make sure that there's no mechanic coming in that will move you around, because that will hurt, and it sucks when you get knocked around and you're starting your drain life and you lose a lot of DPS because of it. The other change is Cascading Calamity. When you cast Unstable Affliction on your target affected by your Unstable Affliction, increase your haste by X amount. So you will always want to overlap your Unstable Affliction slightly so you get this haste buff. It takes a while to get used to, but once you're used to it, it's really simple. So when it comes to the opening rotation, I will show you a picture on the screen right now, and that's your opening rotation. You always start with a pre-pot, Haunt, Agony, Siphon Life, Corruption, Phantom into Dark Soul, Condense Life Force, as many Unstable Afflictions as you can, into Dark Lair, into Death Bolt, and then you go to your normal rotation. Your normal rotation is always to keep up all the dots and use most things on cooldown. That is Death Bolt and Phantom Singularity. You would like to use Death Bolt right after casting an Unstable Affliction. The reason for this is Death Bolt scales off the remaining dot damage on the target. So to make the most use of Death Bolt is you cast Unstable Affliction and then you Death Bolt. You're always aimed to have 100% uptime on all of your dots. That includes Haunt. You can never have 100% uptime on Haunt, but every time it's off cooldown you cast it straight away. And when it comes to using your big cooldowns, you want to save Dark Soul Mystery for when your Condensed Life Force is up and when your Summon Dark Lair is up. And right before these big cooldowns are about to go off cooldown, you want to pull as many soul shards as possible. So before you go into the Summon Dark Lair and Condensed Life Force rotation, you want to have at least 5 soul shards available. For me, I need to wait at around 30 seconds before my Summon Dark Lair is up, but others may have to wait longer or less time depending on how good your haste is. But a general rule of thumb is 45 seconds to stop casting Unstable Affliction and save up on those soul shards. So keeping all of your dots up is very important, obviously, but then there's the Unstable Affliction mechanic. You always want to have at least one Unstable Affliction on your target. It increases your overall damage by 10%, and it's really important to keep up. So if you have Cascading Calamity, right before the Unstable Affliction is about to run off, you cast it again. If you don't have Cascading Calamity, you want to cast it the second the other one is about to run off. You always want to aim to have Unstable Affliction up 100% of the time, unless you're pooling for Dark Lair. It's relatively hard to have 100% uptime on Unstable Affliction, but if you're lucky and you get a really good pull, you can have almost 100% uptime on Cascading or Unstable Affliction. So things to keep in mind. Haunt needs to be up all the time. Do Unstable Affliction, then Death Bolt. And right before 30 seconds or so before Summer Dark Lair and Condensed Life Force is up, start saving your soul shards. And then you do the same thing as in the opening rotation. You start with Dark Soul Mystery, Condensed Life Force, cast 5 Unstable Afflictions, and you summon Dark Lair. So the same, exactly the same as in the opening rotation. When it comes to stat weights, you need to sim it. Right now, stat weights doesn't really exist in the way it did before. For me, it still recommends me haste, but for a lot of people, it could recommend versatility, mastery, crit, or whatever the case may be. Then go for that, and that includes the food. Personally, I'm using the baked potato since it gives me haste, and it recommends me haste. I'm gemming haste, I'm enchanting haste. When it comes to the pot, Potion of Unbridled Fury It's easily the best potion you can use, and it's well balanced around both single target and cleave. If you want to min-max cleave, using greater potion of intellect is the way to go. If you have any questions regarding any of the things I said, just post it down in the comments. And thank you for watching, and see you next time.